Hello you guys, and welcome back to another video. This is a video I have been wanting to make for so long, and so many of you have asked so many questions about it. If you're new here, I am Kat. Welcome to my channel. We have so much fun around here. This video is going to be all about pregnancy after loss. It's going to be about ovulation, what we did different, tracking ovulation, fertility in general, like kind of a backstory real quick of like birth control, ovulation tracking the year we tried to conceive before we had our first miscarriage, kind of going through a little bit of the testing process and just our story with the miscarriages, but mainly going into some of the emotions of pregnancy after loss, after you've had a miscarriage and being pregnant again and like experiencing all the fun things, but also like knowing you didn't get to experience those with your previous baby and the fear and anxiety and also just all the happy redeeming things. And then lastly, we're going to go into my gene mutation, which is called MTHFR, methyl tetrahydrofolate reductase enzyme. And that's a lot to swallow, so I'll just call it MTHFR for the sake of ease in this video. But so many people in the US, 40% of people in the United States have this gene mutation. And before any of you who are watching start getting like, oh gosh, like we're gonna go way into it at the end of the video, but basically MTHFR is so common, so many people have it. It is a big deal, but there are so many different types of it. So there's 4 like main types of it, and really only 2 are like pretty bad. The other 2 that are more common, not really a big deal, doesn't do that much for your body. You might need to assess some things, but you're fine. So before, I feel like I have to preface when I say 40% of the population has this, like it's not like serious for everyone. So anyways, those are kind of the 3 topics we're going to jump into for this video, but I wanted to start off with ovulation tracking, fertility in general, and kind of what we did. So if you're new here, essentially we had a whole year, 13 months of trying for a baby, just like naturally tracking. Like we had not used protection for a while before that, and then we started trying intentionally, and I'm just like very in tune with my body. I know when I ovulate, I have a lot of cervical fluid, TMI, but this is a fertility related video, so if you're not here for the TMI things, then I'm sorry, because there will be TMI things. But I can just tell by the way my body feels. I know I ovulate late because my cycles are a little bit longer than some girls. And yeah, just in general, I felt like I could tell when I ovulated based on my body's natural cues. But I wanted to take a second because if you're someone who is not even trying for kids yet, you may not even be married yet, and you're just kind of wanting to learn more about natural cycle tracking in general, and because you don't want to be taking birth control, you don't want to have an IUD, you don't want to use condoms every time you have sex when you're married, like whatever it is. But if you're wanting to learn more about your cycle, I actually wanted to take a minute to talk about a brand, Modern Fertility, that I have thought is so cool for honestly our whole trying to conceive journey. I will be transparent and say I did not use them leading up to our conception, but I did look at using them the November before we ended up getting pregnant in January, and I've just heard amazing things about them as a brand. And I'm actually getting to work with Modern Fertility now, which is so cool because I feel like empowering girls in their fertility journey, in their learning about their bodies and how reproduction works, and just like all the amazing things that we do as women is something I'm really passionate about, because I've had to learn a lot, and I wish I knew like a lot more about my cycle, my body, my hormones, just all the things before we even started this journey. So the reason I wanted to talk about Modern Fertility for a second in this video is actually because they make it so easy to test your hormones from home, just like a really good starting base for trying to conceive, or even just making sure that your hormones are balanced in general in your cycle. Because I think it's good to know things, like the further ahead you know things, like knowledge is power. So either preparing for having a baby, or if you just like feel off and like wanting to know like why is my cycle not regular, and like tracking those hormones, they send you this at-home hormone test kit. And essentially you do a little prick, you send it in this bag, you send it in, they run like your whole hormone counts. Literally comes with already paid postage for you to just mail it in. You activate your test with this. It's just so simple and easy. And that's kind of how they start off helping you in your fertility journey, is like tracking your hormones, letting you know more about your personal cycle, because every woman's body is so different. And they also help you with monitoring your temperature, tracking your ovulation, and figuring out your cycle in general, because there's just so much to learn about a woman's cycle, and Modern Fertility does an amazing job of that. I'll do a little screen recording here of like their website and kind of how things work. But they do such an amazing job of that based on everything I've researched, read, working with them, heard from friends who have used in different things. And so I wanted to let you guys know they did give me a discount. So if you hit the link in the description, you can actually get $20 off your hormone test to order, get started today. If that's something that you're interested in, something you've been needing to do, is whether it's like for natural birth control and you're wanting to learn more about your cycle, or you are about to start trying to conceive and you just want to like make sure everything's good, kind of get started on like what your hormone fertility journey is going to look like, they're a great option linked in the description for $20 off. I think something that frustrated me to no end during our like first year of trying was I knew I had a healthy period. I knew I like ovulated healthy. Like I could just tell from the signs of my body. But obviously you never know until you know. But I had some people be like, when are you gonna get your hormones checked? Like, which is just people wanting to be helpful, saying like, hey, this is a good spot to start. Like maybe checking your hormones. Like maybe something's wrong because it took you a whole 13 months. First of all, I just want to say to anyone trying to conceive, like, so it really does just take longer for some people, and that does not mean something is wrong with you. Honestly, 60% of the time when there is a fertility also like issue, it comes from the male. So if you're watching this and you're a girly, it might not even be your fault, but actually 1 in 8 couples struggle to get pregnant, which is just so insane. And I think it's because the world we live in is getting like less and less healthy, so it's like harder and harder to be more and more fertile and keep your hormones balanced because there's always chemicals and things going on around us. That's why I share so much about like non-toxic living and all the different things. That's one big switch I made after we found out I had MTHFR, removed like all toxic cleaners from our house, started getting rid of toxic makeup products and getting clean stuff. I got like different laundry detergent, soap, everything. It was a whole journey, but we did it. Slowly but surely, we did it. Once again, I'm gonna link that in the description for you guys. If you wanna check out Modern Fertility and order your hormone kit today to just get started and see all that they offer, that will be $20 off, linked in the description. So that's how we tried for the first 13 months. And then we got pregnant naturally we found out January 2023. We ended up having a 10-week miscarriage, a blighted ovum miscarriage. And then directly after that, before I even had a full cycle, we had a chemical pregnancy. We're not exactly sure. I think it was around 4 or 5 weeks was like the miscarriage. But basically I just started getting lighter pregnancy tests, and it was super, super, super early on that one. So that's kind of like our backstory. But after the second miscarriage is when we ended up getting tested for like everything, because thankfully a lot of doctors will make you wait to do a recurrent miscarriage panel, is what they call it, where they run all these hormone tests, genetic tests, different things that could be going on to cause you to miscarry over and over and over again. Thankfully, they did it after 2 for us, because normally they don't do it till there's been 3, which I think is so messed up. I think you should get it after 1, just in case there's anything you can do to prevent future stuff, but I'm not a doctor, and miscarriages are common, and they usually almost always are fluke things, and there's nothing you can do about it. So if that's any encouragement to you, you don't need to feel like anything is your fault if you've had a miscarriage and you should have like done something better or whatever. But if there is something you can do, I hope that this video helps educate you, helps you figure out how you can better track your cycle, prepare for conception, and find out if you have MTHFR or not, maybe take some supplements, whatever it is that you might need to prevent yourself from that heartbreak and losing your baby, because it is one of the worst things to go through, and I feel so heavily for anyone who goes through it. But essentially, my doctor ran the panel. We did all the thyroids, all the hormone things. Like literally, I think I did like 13 tubes that day, and I'd already done a bunch. But basically, every single thing came back good and healthy and like good levels. My progesterone was a tiny bit low, but progesterone is hard to track in your cycle anyways, because it's different at each point in your cycle. So we weren't like really that worried about it. We were like, maybe we'll just have you supplement some progesterone in future pregnancies in the beginning just to be safe. So that was kind of the only hormone related thing that came back at all negative. And then I asked my doctor to check me for MTHFR, because my aunt messaged me and was like, hey, you should really get checked for this. Like I have it and I've had these miscarriages. Like I think that you should get checked for it. So anyways, got checked for it. I was positive. I'm heterozygous compound, which means I have type A and type C. You won't really get that until we talk about MTHFR more later in the video, but just means I have both types, but not like, oh, my genes have both types. I'm like 50-50, if that makes sense. So anyways, it's not the worst form to have, but we figured that out. Started doing research and started like heavy supplementation. We'll talk about that more later, like I said. But that's kind of all we changed. We took like 1-2 months off of trying and then started trying again June 2023. We did not get pregnant in June. Or no, we started trying again at the end of May. Didn't get pregnant in June. Like I had a period in June. And then we ended up finding out we were pregnant around like July 1st. So our first like full month back trying, like in June, I was pregnant with our rainbow baby boy that's in here now. But I wanted to talk about ovulation tracking, your cycle in general, because I feel like some women who might be watching this are either like worried they're going to struggle with fertility, want to just know more about their cycle in general, or are wondering like, what did you do to track your ovulation? But essentially, I'll talk about this more later in the video. With MTHFR, like the supplementation I did is what like fixed allowing me to get pregnant. Like I actually started a supplement last year around the time we got pregnant that I didn't realize had the stuff I need in it to have a healthy egg and ovulate and get pregnant. So the fact that I did track ovulation this cycle, I feel like some people are like, oh, you just got pregnant because you tracked your ovulation this cycle, like this year. But it's like, no, I've been pregnant 3 times this year. Like something was just fixed in my body to where I can get pregnant. But essentially this cycle, we did end up doing ovulation strips. And I think that's a great tool for people to use who, one, just want to start off using that. It's like super easy and it just lets you know kind of like what's going on in your body if you're not like aware. For us, like that June month we were trying, I actually did the strips like almost every day because my cycles and things were just kind of weird post miscarriage. Like you never know what's going on in your body. But I took the strips and I actually had like a semi peak and then it went back down with the strips really early in my cycle and I was like, that's weird. I wonder, like, I always ovulate late in my cycle, so it's so weird. Like, the strip never got like it's supposed to, where it's like control, it's darker than the control line. Essentially, when you pee on stick, like, it's supposed to be darker than the control line. If your like LH is high enough for peak ovulation. So I got kind of worried because it was like really light, got darker, and then like stopped getting darker and then got lighter again. So I was like, oh, well I ovulated. Like that's my ovulation, like it went up and down. But it never like fully got really dark. So I was worried, I was like, what if I'm not ovulating like healthy? That's why we had miscarriages, like maybe they're not healthy eggs, like the LH doesn't get high enough, like how does that work, whatever. I was confused, so I stopped taking the strips for a couple days and just kind of like chilled out. I was like, we did our best this month like to hit it based on the strips, but I just feel like something is off. And then a couple days later, I just ended up having so much cervical mucus and I was like, unless this is like implantation, like I know I'm ovulating. So I started taking the strips again and sure enough, they were like really dark and then they got like darker for another day after that. So we like tried again those couple days and that's when I ended up conceiving. So I think it was just weird for me to like take the strips and have them tell me like, you're ovulating, even though it never fully got dark. Like they were right when I took them when I was ovulating. But like I knew to take one because I had so much cervical fluid and I was like, this is day like 20 of my cycle. Like I know to a T, this is when I should have like peak ovulation. And sure enough, like the strips confirmed that. So for us, it was like honestly more confusing to use the strips because I think I'm one of those girls. Some girls will kind of like their bodies prepare for ovulation. And that's that first rise where you see the LH go up and then it like mellows out. And then you actually have your egg drop. So I think that's, I know I like ovulate a little bit weird because there's always, at like every point in my cycle, random cervical fluid, but I can tell when it's like egg drop day kind of cervical fluid. So anyways, essentially like the strips were good for me, but it was more so just good to kind of know what's going on in my cycle. But they did add an element of confusion because I was like thinking I was ovulating all the time. That month we had to like try so much. It was just like, I was like, we're not missing our opportunity to like get pregnant this month. It was just so weird because I was like a little bit psycho, like post miscarriage. I just really wanted to be pregnant again. I feel like at this point we waited like 3 or 4 months since like going through the miscarriages, and just like miscarriage does something to your brain of just like you get the thing you were longing for, hoping for, praying for, and then it's like grief times a billion, like because you lost your baby and you're still like dealing with infertility. So it's just like this, I don't know how to, like it just intensifies the infertility, like longing and grief like so much. And that's not to take away from someone going through infertility who hasn't had a miscarriage. It's just like what it did for me personally in our story was like amplify any emotion, any like desperate feeling. And I still trusted God with the time and everything, but it was just like, we're gonna do everything we can to nail it down now, you know? So let's move on from birth control, ovulation, fertility, cycle tracking in general, and move on to more of like the emotional side of pregnancy after loss. And this is something that I don't want to make like super sad, but I also didn't want to talk about like the miscarriages a ton in some of my like happy pregnancy, just like normal videos on my channel, because I know for some people, like I don't think I am really this way, but for some people, like hearing about a miscarriage when they're pregnant can be like really triggering. And they just like don't want to watch or hear about that, or like don't need to personally because of something they've been through, or just they're a really anxious person and like they just don't need to hear that, whatever it might be. I just like really knew that when we were pregnant with our rainbow baby, I wanted to make it about like that baby. Like yes, I still talk about miscarriage and like how sweet things are now because we didn't get to experience like them that way before and whatever. But I feel like I try to do a good job of not always talking about the miscarriages in my videos, because I want it to be about this baby and about how joyful this pregnancy has been. But I remember there definitely were some things, especially early on. I did not talk about this in my first trimester video or in any any of my videos. I don't think I mentioned it anywhere other than like friends when we're talking about stuff. But around 9 weeks, I actually ended up having, I'll probably cry just because pregnancy hormones and also just like talking about your miscarriages makes you emotional if you've had miscarriages. But yeah, around 9 weeks I had some blood. It was not even like spotting, like it was like blood. And I just like immediately was like, I'm miscarrying again, like it's happening again, like I just can't believe it, like I've been throwing up, like we just really thought this was it, like we saw them, like there's no way, like I just was like beside myself. I like laid in bed like anxious, like crying all day, and like Casey was like affirming me and we're talking to OB, and it's just like, no, like we don't accept that, like we don't believe that. The blood didn't like continue or anything. It was literally only like one like stool, like one moment. And we think it actually ended up being because of like sex. Like they said that sometimes just your cervix is more sensitive depending on things that are changing. And it hasn't happened since, even when we've had sex or I've like worked out or anything, nothing's been wrong. So it was like a one-time scare, but like that happened. That was just really big, like this is so scary moment, I think, of just being pregnant. Like if you're pregnant in general and you see blood and it's not like normal for you in pregnancy or anything, like if you have an anxious personality or even not, like you're just your mom instincts are on to like worry about that baby. And yes, like you surrender it to God, like you have faith, you trust, like you don't get super anxious because that's not good for a baby. But like I know people who didn't have any blood, didn't have any miscarriages, didn't have any trouble getting pregnant, and cried almost every single day of pregnancy because they were so anxious about their baby. And that's just not my personality. Like I just am not really an anxious person. I get stressed about things, but I wouldn't say I struggle with like anxiety necessarily. I have, but not as a whole in my personality, if that makes sense. Like when we first got pregnant after a whole year of trying, 13 months of trying, I never once even thought of the word miscarriage. I was just like, I'm pregnant, we're yay, like all the cute things, we're gonna have a baby, great. Didn't even think about the word miscarriage until we started having bad scans, and then I kind of was like having to precondition myself to like, this literally could be happening. Like what is happening? Like there's no way, you know? But originally that wasn't like my personality to like even think that way. So I'm already a way less anxious person than like most women, I feel like. And so being pregnant post losses, like I definitely in first trimester did struggle some with like just having to like take deep breaths and like surrender this pregnancy. I think that's something the miscarriages really taught me, is just like, this isn't my baby, like it's God's baby, it's not my body, it's not like anything about this is not mine to control, and there really is nothing I can do. I literally quit my job for 2 months to like study a gene mutation and prepare my body the best I could for like this pregnancy. I like quit like so many things I love to do and like changed so much, and like took these supplements that literally gave me nerve damage because I took too much, and just like it was just like a whole saga. This year my health has just been like a whole saga, and I just was like, I've done everything I literally can for this baby and like for this pregnancy and for my body, for conception. Like it is literally up to God, and I've done my part. Like I've taken care of this baby, I've done all the things right, and it really is just up to him, like to do the rest, to do whatever else he wants to do and like protect this baby or like grow our family, or if he has something else for us. And so I really struggled in first trimester, and even like you still have moments, but like I worry so much less now. Like I'm so much less anxious now. Like even making like a cup of tea, I don't always like read the label like, is it okay to have this pregnant? Like I'm just way more like chill now, I guess, which I think is normal once you get out of that first like 15, 16 weeks in general. But even at first, once we were testing like week 4 or 5, like I was still testing, just making sure my lines were getting darker or whatever. And around week 4 or 5 too is when they had me come into the OB to make sure my HCG was doubling. They'll do that if you've had miscarriages, just make sure your hormones are going up, basically make sure you're not miscarrying again. And they like tripled, like we literally thought I was having twins, they were so high. Probably just because my body's been pregnant 3 times this year, so she knows what she's doing in there, making a sac and growing a little heartbeat and everything, because she's made a sac twice now, so she's like, I'm ready. Anyways, the hormones were super high, so that was super good. Like once we found that out, it was like, okay, at least I can stop like testing and worrying about my HCG going up. But since we did have a blighted ovum is essentially where your placenta and sac keep growing. Like I grew a pregnancy until 11 weeks in January, but baby stopped growing like very early on, like 6-7 weeks. So it's essentially like a pregnancy where the sac grows, but baby stops growing, and your body just doesn't get the cue to naturally miscarry. And it just keeps growing the pregnancy. So I think having that type of miscarriage was like really hard in another pregnancy, because it's like I didn't know anything was wrong. It's not like I started bleeding. It's not like anything changed. I still had pregnancy symptoms. I was still nauseous. Not like it was not like this pregnancy. This pregnancy was like real nausea. That was like kind of fake nausea. The first pregnancy, the blighted ovum. But anyways, yeah, it just like coming from that was hard to like surrender the not knowing of what's going on in there. But thankfully around 11-12 weeks I did start feeling quickening, which helped me a lot. But it's also hard with quickening because it's like little bubbly feelings, and yeah, I felt it super early. I think because it was like my second pregnancy now. Obviously I didn't go full term before, but second pregnancy, I'm really petite, I have a posterior placenta, all the things. So anyways, I just felt him really early, and that helped me a lot emotionally to kind of be like, I literally feel those flutters. I've never felt anything like that before. Like that has to be him. And that continued until like he started real kicking. Like that kept to like going. Yes, there'd be phases where it was more or less or whatever. But that really helped a lot. And now that he's kicking like hard, like Casey can feel it. I can like barely see it outside the womb, like on my tummy. I can see it a little. I'm very excited to get a video of that. Hopefully we'll see. But yeah, it's just been so much more like full of peace and joy now that like we're out of the throwing up all the time phase, and just like nerve-wracking phase, I guess. Like I feel him now. I've like seen his face. Like here's our little anatomy scan picture. Like I just like feel a lot more full of peace now than I did before, if that makes sense. And I was full of peace before, like from the day we found out. I literally like stood in the hallway and like cried to Casey and was like, we are full of faith, like we don't get to doubt about this, like we don't get to worry, like this is it, like we're gonna meet this baby. And just like, you know, it's like really scary to like say something like that, because it's like, it's not up to you, like I said, like it's really not, it's up to God. But like doing our part and having the faith and believing that like he's a miracle working God and he's able. There's Elevation Worship, I'll put a screenshot here, but the song More Than Able has been like, I think anyone going through fertility loss, anything related to like worrying for your baby, probably loves this song. But I loved it really after the miscarriages, because it's kind of when it came out, and during the miscarriages. But I really just like needed this song and used this song to completely reorient the way I thought about trying to conceive again. It was just like, I'm not going to believe there's going to be another year of infertility. I'm not going to believe, like I physically like felt like scared to try again. Like it felt like going through infertility again, like some forms of it, or just waiting in general, would be so much less bad than if we miscarried again, which obviously is like, yes, waiting a couple months is better than if you miscarry again, obviously. But just like, I like physically couldn't fathom going through another miscarriage. Like I just like literally was like, I physically will not be able to do it. Like that's how I felt emotionally and physically. And so I just like had to like come to this place of just like, you're more than able, and like this is your family, like not mine. Like yes, it's my family, but like you're the one who has a will and a plan for it. And just like that song, the Sunday, like right around 4 or 5 weeks pregnant, I like got a fainter line on a pregnancy test and was convinced like I am miscarrying again. Like I was literally in a bad mood all day. Like even family members, like we only had like 2 people know we were pregnant, but like our sister and brother-in-law, like we're talking about baby stuff and pregnancy and like this pregnancy, and I was just like in a bad mood about like anything, and just like felt offended by every comment, and just like even though people weren't doing anything wrong, I just like kind of go into this like bitter place because I like convinced myself like it's happening again and I don't get to be full of joy and whatever. This Sunday after that, like Saturday night, they sang that song at church for like the first time I ever remember them singing it there. So we just got a new worship leader and I just like cried and I like felt, I've never talked about this in a video and people asked me about it because I mentioned in one of our videos, like, I just know that this is it. This is like our baby. Like God has told me basically, like, even though it wasn't like a God told me, you know, kind of thing. I just like knew like this is our rainbow baby and we're going to get to meet this one and everything. And, anyways, basically that moment at church is kind of what I mean when I like talk about that I know kind of thing. Was one, just I felt like this was like our time and God was in it and everything, but two was like that Sunday worshiping to that song, like I like heard God say that he's given me a double portion and I just need to sit back and believe that and stop like not believing that I have received my double portion. And so then I thought like I was having twins because of the double portion thing, but it was so much easier to remember that word from that moment of worship and just be like, I received a double portion. Like he's already given it to me. I received it. And I get to like sit in that and stay in that. And I don't need to constantly be thinking that I'm miscarrying or things are happening. Like I know I've received that double portion and I say thank you and receive it. And so that helped me a lot, kind of just process some of the first trimester emotions and like hard things in general. So yeah, it's been very like up and down emotions, but I would say just like every part of getting to go back to the OBGYN, we go to the same OBGYN we did for the losses, and just like walking in and out of those doors after seeing your baby squirm on an ultrasound, like when you saw an empty sac over and over and over and over again, like if anyone, I feel like I'm crying just thinking about anyone watching this who's like going through that, like not even like for me, because like I am in such a better place and stuff, and like yeah, excited to meet our like angel babies, but I'm like good, you know, about the miscarriages. I feel like I've healed a lot and stuff, but just like still like I just rips my heart open again, like thinking about anyone going through it. And so sometimes I'll literally leave the OBGYN crying because like not until we get in the car or whatever, but I just like tell Casey how grateful I am, and I'm just like, I just know someone left today who's like heart's broken and like they found out a really scary diagnosis about their baby, or like they know they're gonna lose their baby, or you know what happened to us is happening to someone or whatever. And it just like breaks me, but it's also like so sweet, like knowing that we have a redemption story and like we are not in that place anymore, and like praying for those people and having a heart for those people who are going through it now, but also knowing that like hopefully our miracle story can encourage someone as well. I don't know, just being able to have those places that you had those ultrasounds, generally the same rooms, the same techs, like everything, like we had techs like almost cry for us when we like had a heartbeat and stuff, you know, like at the OBGYN, like because they just like saw what we went through and like, you know, saw that it like broke our hearts and like obviously breaks their hearts too. And so it's just been really redeeming, like so much of, I feel like the past like 10 weeks has just been really sweet to just see him grow and get to experience it. Like pregnancy is hard, way harder than I thought. I've had I would say semi-hard pregnancy so far, just based on sickness and pubic symphysis pain, just different things, but I wouldn't trade any of it. Like I just have so much gratitude and just overwhelming like thanks. Every time I feel him kick, every time I see him, every time I like see my bump growing, I'm just like, I get to do that. Like I get to do this because I prayed for it for so long. But anyways, that's enough emotions. Let's jump into the MTHFR portion of this video because I've been so excited to talk about this, and I honestly think down the road, maybe even after baby's here, or maybe if I just have a good opportunity to film a video still during pregnancy at some point way later on, I will maybe do like a whole 30-minute to an hour long video literally just about MTHFR and pregnancy and MTHFR in general and how it affects your body, whatever. So I won't go into like too much today, but I will say like what we changed for this baby essentially. So like I mentioned earlier, when we got our tests and things done, the only things that came back were like slightly low progesterone and then the MTHFR. So for the progesterone, she was like, okay, we'll prescribe you like vaginal, like pills you take vaginally essentially, progesterone for whenever you're pregnant. Again, like as soon as you find out, like I'll call that prescription, like you'll go get it, whatever. And based on the like research I did and things, I didn't feel comfortable taking the dosage that like my doctor prescribed. So I ended up getting some natural topical progesterone cream. I'll put a screenshot here. But I got this natural topical progesterone cream and would just put a little bit on my tummy. Basically, I think like around the time we got a positive, like that's when I started doing it. Because you don't want to take progesterone when you're ovulating. It actually acts as like a birth control agent, because progesterone is in birth control. Like it can stop your body from ovulating properly. So if you are taking progesterone at all for any fertility things, no matter what your doctor has told you, like talk to your doctor, but make sure you're not taking it when you're ovulating if you're trying to conceive, unless you're doing some kind of weird fertility treatment that I just don't know about, because it acts as a birth control essentially. Anyway, so we did this natural topical progesterone, and I think sometimes I struggled with like, what if this is not enough? Like, what if I should be taking the pills vaginally? But even when I went to pick them up at that like Publix pharmacy, because that's where I got them, the lady looked at me really serious. She's like, this is an insanely high dosage. Like, I don't know that I've ever given someone, like, she was just like, this is so much progesterone. So that kind of like ticked me off again. I'm just like, oh gosh, like, so I was already thinking I wouldn't take it. It was kind of just like to have at home in case I got like super anxious and really wanted to. And I think too, just taking them vaginally, like so close to baby, and I know that's like the better way to absorb it, and that's why they do that. And some people need to take that much in pregnancy, and it's great. But I just like didn't think I needed to, based on my research, my levels, everything that I was looking at. So we just did the natural topical progesterone. So yeah, we just did like a couple drops a day in the morning and night of that natural topical progesterone, which I had actually used in previous cycles too, like after my ovulation period, in case I had been pregnant, like the month we tried before when we got pregnant. So anyways, I would definitely recommend that if you're not wanting to do a super invasive hormone supplement and your doctor's okay with it, whatever. Would definitely recommend that, because I think it definitely like made me feel a little bit strange, but pregnancy hormones in general do. So I think it was a safer option than taking like the freaking 200 milligrams or whatever it was a day vaginally, twice a day, like whatever it was. It was just like, this is so much progesterone. I was just like scared. It was so much. So did not do that. But then with MTHFR, like I said, I had taken supplements leading up to getting pregnant for about 3 months, and I had actually started supplementing with a supplement I didn't even know I needed in November before we got pregnant that December last year, so 2022. And I think personally, knowing all that I know about MTHFR now, taking that supplement, essentially it had methylated folate in it, which is what you need as someone with MTHFR. The MTHFR enzyme is essentially what methylates. Methylate with vitamins just means metabolizes, so helps break down. So when I say methylate, literally just think like metabolism, breaking down of your food kind of with vitamins. So basically MTHFR enzyme methylates vitamin Bs. So like a lot of vitamin Bs, folate is the main one. Folate is like the number one thing you need to grow a pregnancy, to grow a baby, and in order to ovulate or have sperm be healthy. Like if your husband has MTHFR, his sperm are not healthy enough for you to fertilize, for you to have a baby. Same with eggs. Like, so I think what happened was I started taking this high dosage. It was like an iron supplement that had methylated, already metabolized folate in it, and so I didn't know that folate was in it. I just was taking it for the iron. As a runner, sometimes I need iron, and I think I was taking this like high dosage with the added Bs in it that helped me ovulate like healthy enough to cue my body on to like, okay, we can get pregnant. She has enough of this now that she needs. But it really takes your body like 3 months of being on these kind of supplements, having enough of that methylfolate in order to make a healthy egg. Apparently that's like what people say. The specialist I saw like told me about 3 months kind of thing. So anyways, I think I just hadn't been taking it long enough. My body was finally like, we're ready to go. I can release, like she can ovulate enough to get pregnant, whatever. But the eggs like didn't have time to really get that healthy. Like, I don't know how exactly all these things work, so I could be so wrong. Someone who's a doctor, call me out if I am. But based on like my months of research, this is what I came to conclude, that like I probably hadn't fully gotten those eggs as healthy as they need to be. We got pregnant immediately after taking the supplement, and then I had the blighted ovum, because like from the get-go with a blighted ovum pregnancy, our first miscarriage, essentially something is so genetically messed up that the baby just stops growing. Like the placenta keeps going because your body didn't catch, like your body was a healthy place for a pregnancy to grow. Like your body didn't want to let go of that. It wasn't like a stressed out environment for baby. It was just like baby's DNA was too unhealthy from probably my eggs not being fully healthy from the get-go. So sadly, that's how that was. And then our second miscarriage was a chemical pregnancy because my uterine lining had not fully shed from our first miscarriage yet. So it was just like not a prime time for my body to get pregnant. So my uterine lining wasn't healthy enough for baby to implant on that one. So anyways, then once we find out after the second one, I have MTHFR, I learn I need this methylfolate, all these things. I'm like, okay, so I start taking a ton of them. So I'm like, fix me, like get me pregnant, whatever. And you can basically take too much methylfolate because once folate, vitamin B, most vitamins, like if you take too much, you just pee them out. But I was taking like insane amounts because I was just like, get me pregnant, you know, like 40,000% of your daily was like some of the things on these supplement things I was taking. I don't think I would take over 10,000% daily now. I take like, I think 200% or 300% a day in pregnancy. But during that like vamping up before trying to conceive again, I wanted to take like a ton. So I was taking all these high dose supplements. I ended up getting some nerve damage, which is so confusing. But basically my whole left leg and back were in so much pain I like couldn't walk. It started like the weekend after, like 2 days after I started taking the supplements, and then got better when I stopped taking the supplements. So we like know it was related to that, but essentially once vitamin Bs are like metabolized, methylated. So once you get methylated vitamin B, it does like 500 other things in your body. That's why MTHFR can heavily affect people, because the enzyme that helps you metabolize this vitamin B does like 500, like this nutrient then goes on to do all these things in your body. So I think what happened was I had all of this, so that it's like, okay, methylated folate performs the task of creating like ammonium or whatever in your body that then does this and like allows platelets to not bind to your nerve. That's such a made up situation. But I think whatever it was, I don't think it was like the methylfolate was the issue. I think it was like the methylfolate then going on to do these other tasks that it does, like produce ammonium or whatever it does. It did so much of that it caused like pain in my body. So I had to like wean off the supplements, stop taking them for like a week, and it was scary because we like started trying during that time. I was like, I need to be taking them. Like, what if like, I was just so like anxious about it because I was like, what do I take? What do I not? I'm in so much pain. I literally can't walk, so I don't need to take them, but like I need to for my baby. And then I just kind of calmed down. I was like, listen, if you have enough to where it's literally causing you nerve damage, your body, your liver has stored up enough of this nutrient that your baby will be fine for the first couple weeks until things get going, and then you can take more, you know. So that's kind of what happened basically, is I would take them like sporadically as pregnancy started. As soon as we got pregnant, I'd take like every other day one of the like methyl B pills. I take like half my prenatal dosage because it has the methyl B in it. Which obviously was scary coming from miscarriage, but I also could just feel out what my body needed. I got my Bs tested at the doctor, which is not really a great way to flag or track because methylfolate isn't tested in like a folate blood test. But I got everything that I could like at my doctor checked. I saw specialists in between trying again to get pregnant and got all kinds of vitamins and things checked, and everything checked out like really healthy. So really supplementing with this methylfolate is all I did once I got pregnant again. Like as I could, as the nerve damage would get better and better, I'd like supplement more and more and just kind of feel it out. And then I would say once we got to the 8 to 12 week range, I started just like taking it. I was like, and my nerve stuff did start to get better. I think baby sucked me dry of all the excess methylfolate that I had, because I don't really have the nerve pain now. I just have like different pain things from pregnancy, but it's not related to vitamins anymore, which is great. So anyways, if you are someone who's trying to conceive, if you've been trying for a while, just no luck, I would say take like Ancestry DNA or something like that. Get you and your husband, because like I said, 60% of fertility issues literally come from the male, but they're literally not checked or blamed for anything. And it's like, everyone just assumes like, you're too skinny, or like, you don't eat enough, or your hormones are all messed up because you're anxious of the female. And it's like, bruh, literally it could be the male. Like, I don't think it was Casey in this instant. His family is so fertile, and everything is great. Like, they have no issues getting pregnant, which is amazing. But I think MTHFR was our issue, but who knows, honestly. But just in general, like, as the girl, I want you to know, like, it's not always you. Like, get your husband checked for things too, which is usually way further down the line. But MTHFR is what I would suggest. Like, if you're really thinking this could be your thing, either just start taking low dosage methylfolate. I can link some in the description if you're interested. Or get tested and just like ask around, DM me. I try to answer any MTHFR questions that I get, which I don't answer like all my DMs, but MTHFR, helping people with fertility, is something I'm like really passionate about, so I try to answer all of those. But anyways, basically like you can get tested for a couple $100, I think, for like both you and your spouse on like Ancestry.com and some of the like genetic gene testing sites. Like you don't even have to do it at your doctor, because a lot of OBs will be like, we don't do that. Mine basically does whatever I want, because like what we went through, she'll like check me for anything. But I asked her and she didn't really want to run MTHFR, and I was like, I have an aunt who has it, and that's what like got her to check me for it, because it's genetic, obviously. Anyways, so get that checked, and you can look up all the different types, but essentially if you're homozygous compound for the C type, there's like A, a bunch of numbers, C, a bunch of numbers, are the two like types. And so I have A and C, and I'm heterozygous compound, so half my genes have A and half have C. So it's definitely worse than if I just had heterozygous not compound, heterozygous just A, or heterozygous just C. But since I have both, it's like 50 or A, 50 or C, you know, so that kind of sucks because it still affects a lot of my genes. But the worst to have is the C one. It's just worse, apparently, where it affects all of your genes. So if you have that one, there actually might be some things like blood thinners and different things they might need to do for you during pregnancy. You might need to take a couple different things. That was suggested to me, but once again, based on the type I have, the research I did, I felt like I didn't need to take blood thinners, and I prayed about that a lot, thought about it a lot, saw multiple specialists, read books, podcasts, all the things, because it was really scary to not, kind of like the progesterone, but the blood thinners were scarier to me because it was like recommended. It was scary to not do that, but based on the research I did, I just did not think that I needed it and did not think that that was the route we were supposed to take. So thankfully everything is good, and I don't need blood thinners during pregnancy, but some people do with different forms of MTHFR. So just like learning what your body needs and assessing that for you. But that would be my recommendation, is like getting tested that way. Or if you're just trying to conceive or you've had a couple miscarriages, that's not a light thing to say, like you've had a miscarriage, like anything, like you're scared of it even, just start supplementing with some low dose methylfolate. That would be my biggest recommendation. I'll have some linked in the description. I'll also have the prenatal brand that I take now with all methylated vitamins in it, aka already metabolized vitamins, easier for your body to absorb, linked in the description. And one more note about that Modern Fertility, if you're trying to conceive, just trying to track your cycle in general, it will be $20 off, linked in the description. But I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope it was informative. Please comment questions. I will definitely be replying to the comments on this video because I want to answer people's questions. That's the whole point of this video, is hopefully help someone find their answer, because I'm so thankful that we found our answer and we get to grow our rainbow baby now. And I'm always just praying and thinking of people going through fertility and miscarriage things. So sending all love to you guys, and thank you so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed this video.